What up, Cavs Nation? I'm your host, Ethan Sands, and I'm back with another episode of the Wine and Gold Talk podcast. And we are coming to you about Donovan Mitchell, his maturity, his growth, his development and improvement as a leader. Johnnie Bryant, his best friend, one of the best coaches in the NBA and a potential head coach, is in the running for multiple different positions, including the Phoenix Suns. Chris and Jimmy, how do you think losing Donovan's best friend and confidant for sure, but someone who was able to challenge Donovan in ways that nobody else on any coaching staff will be able to? Losing Johnnie Bryant, do you think that would mean for not only the development of Donovan Mitchell, the mentality of Donovan Mitchell, but also the development and maturity and leadership of this team? Because if I'm not mistaken, Johnnie Bryant was one of the first people to be like, you have to pull back for the rest of the team to give more.
I mean, Donovan's still going to be a great player. Donovan's still going to be an MVP caliber player. But I think the communication and the relationship between Kenny and Donovan is going to be something that we're going to have to look at. It certainly is not going to be the level that it was between Donovan and Johnnie Bryant, because there's just like a personal relationship there. There's a trust that has been built over years, so much time together, outside of the cameras, away from the spotlight. There's nothing that Kenny can do to make up for that. There's nothing that Kenny can do to just become what Johnnie Bryant was to Donovan Mitchell, what Johnnie Bryant is to Donovan Mitchell. And Kenny even spoke on this throughout the course of the year. He said, I can't say things to Donovan the way that Johnny can, because Johnny knows him better than me, because Johnny knows like what things are going to resonate best with Donovan. And it's still early into the relationship between Kenny and Donovan. I think Kenny's the kind of guy who can form relationships with everybody. So it's not a situation where all of a sudden, there is going to be nobody on this coaching staff that Donovan trusts or believes in or anything along those lines. But of course it's going to be different. You're taking away, the guy that Donovan trusts most in this world that's not named Rick Pitino, probably. The relationship that he has had with Johnnie Bryant is one that nobody else in the NBA will be able to match. And who knows? Maybe Johnny doesn't get this job. Maybe Phoenix goes a different way. But if he does depart, it would be a loss. It's not the kind of loss that's going to crater Donovan's relationship with the organization or Donovan's relationship with his teammates or the coaching staff. It's not the kind of loss that is one that Kenny's not going to be able to replace. Like, he has a Rolodex. He has a bunch of coaches that he knows, that he believes in. So he'll find somebody else to take that spot from Johnny. But I think anybody would be naive to say that it would be the same. It would not be the same, because Johnny and his relationship with Donovan, like, it transcended. And it was one that, was very beneficial to the Cavs this year. And it was very beneficial to the step that Donovan made in terms of his leadership, his willingness to empower, his willingness to take a step back. Every single time that there was a timeout or a stoppage, the person who pulled Donovan Mitchell to the side before anybody else was Johnnie Bryant. And Donovan listens to him in a different way. He just does. He trusts him in a different way. So it would be something that the Cavs would, have to figure out. Like, how do they replicate that? What do they do, if anything, to try and replicate that and try and make it as smooth as what it was when Johnny was here? That's if, and it's a big if Johnny gets a head coaching job this offseason.
Well, first I would just like to send my dearest condolences to whoever gets that Phoenix Suns job. Not just Johnnie Bryant. Whoever ends up with it, that's a tough. Let's see. We got Frank.
That is an owner who is going to continue to make more and more mistakes. He's going to step on his own feet and fall on his face before he finally has an epiphany of, okay,
Right.
I've got to do something different here.
We don't have to we don't have time to list all the Phoenix Suns mistakes in recent years. But to name a few, from strictly the coaching perspective, we go Frank Vogel, championship winning coach, established good coach, who actually, now looking back on the job Bud did, probably got more out of that team than most guys could have. Fired. Fired after 2 seasons? Vogel got 2 seasons or 1? I don't even know. And then Mike Budenholzer, championship winning coach of the year, 1 season, done.
Like almost didn't even go
you.
through a coaching search because they were so adamant that Bud was the right guy.
No, thank you. And oh, by the way, Kevin Durant might get traded. And oh, by the way, if you do that, who knows what Devin Booker's going to want. And oh, by the way, Bradley Beal's basically the most powerful man in the NBA, and he's not very good, but he still has no trade clause. Good luck. Wish you well. Would love to be how do you pitch your excitement for that job?
Yeah.
If you're Johnnie Bryant, I don't know. Anywho, I would say this about if Johnnie Bryant's potential departure. If he goes, it will be really interesting to see how the Cavs navigate rocky times if and when they arise as it pertains to Donovan. Because honestly, we one of the biggest questions we had with Kenny coming into this year is like, what did he learn from the Brooklyn Nets situation about managing superstars? Mm-hmm. Steve Kerr, Tyronn Lue, about managing superstars. And he's said a lot. He said more. He's talked about being more of a manager than a hands-on coach. And I think the Steve Kerr culture is kind of related to that. Like, you don't have to hold these guys' hands. You don't want to work them too hard, all that. It also just really helps to have an assistant that your best player trusts implicitly like that. And to have the regular season, at least, go about as well as it could have possibly gone. Like next year is particularly assuming the Cavs don't make any major changes here, is going to be pivotal, and we're going to end the season with a lot of tension. And if the Cavs don't start right, that's going to get thick quickly. And if at any point the Cavs go on a long losing streak, it'll get thick quickly. We get into the play, like all that stuff will be harder to manage without Johnnie Bryant. It will be a bigger challenge for Kenny. I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm just saying he doesn't have a tool available to him, and a critical tool, a critical person standing next to him that he had this last year. The other thing is, we talked on the last podcast about how, well, you look up and suddenly we're kind of on the Donovan clock again. He's got 2 guaranteed years left on his contract in the NBA. You never really want to be a team that has a superstar on the last year of his deal and no extension, like the opportunity for him to just walk. It doesn't really, and that's probably going to be the case because it doesn't make really any sense for Donovan to sign an extension until after this is his 8th year that he just finished, after his 10th year of service. So we can get that 35% max. Like, it could get real strange if we spent a lot of the beginning of this season saying, man, it's kind of nice to not have, like, players are saying this weight has been lifted because we know what Donovan's doing now. Well, we're not that far from going back into the weird gray area again. Mm-hmm. And we don't know where Johnnie Bryant would end up. We know that if he goes to Phoenix for reasons that have nothing to do with Johnnie Bryant, there's probably going to be some sort of fire lit very quickly after he gets there. But I'm just saying, if Johnnie Bryant lands somewhere and it works, and that place happens to create some cap space, and the Cavs happen to go sideways, like that's a thing you got to watch as well.
I think there's a bigger picture thing here too, guys, that for a majority of the Donovan Mitchell era, there has not been a lot of drama. There's not been a lot of conflict. I think the Cavs are going into a season where there is strong potential for conflict and drama. And look, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's what this group needs. Maybe they need some internal conflict. Maybe it is a little bit too loose. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. But, with expectation comes pressure. With pressure and expectation comes potential conflict and drama. And if things don't go well, and like all of these things are expected of the Cavs, and it's almost like finals or bust, conference finals or bust. Like, that's very different. It's very different than what it has been over the last couple of years. Like the last couple of years, it's been about take the next step. Take the next step. Oh, we don't want to define the next step specifically, but take the next step. And it was almost like last year, they knew that JB Bickerstaff was probably going to go, that they were going to win that battle anyway. And somebody new was going to come in, and it was going to be the honeymoon phase, and everything was fresh and new and fun and exciting and different. And it led to 64 wins. It led to the number 1 seed. But like, this was the first loss that they actually had as a group where you could tell it hit them hard. Like, they didn't have the attached qualifiers. It wasn't too early for this group. Like, it wasn't some ahead of schedule team that was playing above their head that feels like, oh, we're just going to come back next year and we're going to be there next year anyway. And it wasn't a team that was in the middle of a rebuild that was just like, hey, get to the playoffs. No ping pong balls this time, just get to the playoffs. So, like, this is the one where all of a sudden, like, stuff starts to trickle in. And if things don't go well, and if they don't look like a championship level team, then all of a sudden that stuff gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it manifests itself in a different kind of way. So I would just say to everybody out there, pay attention to that. Because, like, once you get to this point as an organization with this pressure, with these expectations, like, conflict starts to happen. And not just like on-court stylistic conflict of, hey, can Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell play together? Hey, can Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, those two bigs, can that work together? No. We're talking about the other stuff.
The intangibles that made this team so great at the beginning of the season, Chris, the joy that they've played with, could that turn into a conflict? I think that's a storyline that we have to watch for, right? And obviously we know that Kenny Atkinson is going to do everything in his power to keep this group together, and keep this group as cheerful and happy, because that's when they prove to be at their best. But sometimes it's not that easy. And I think if there's anybody that knows that, it's Kenny Atkinson. And speaking of coaches, and obviously we spoke about Johnnie Bryant, his importance, and obviously we'll get into his importance in the X's and O's rather than just the Donovan Mitchell player development, and also his relationship and a different podcast. But
I wonder how that informs the thinking of this organization this offseason. Like, not that Donovan's in a walk year or anything along those lines, but, like, he wants to compete for championships. Period. Like, he wants to go to the conference finals. He wants to compete for championships. And I know that they like the fact that they're set up for sustainable success. And I know that they talk about having this long runway because of the age of this core, because all these guys under contract. But if they're presented with an opportunity, if the phone rings and somebody makes an offer for Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, and the offer presented to them gives them players that are probably closer to the timeline of Donovan Mitchell in terms of competing for a championship, not winning 64 games, not being the number one. I mean, playoff level success. Like, proven playoff level competitors, proven 16-game players. Like, if that package is offered to them, if that's presented to them, I think they give that thought. I think they give that more thought than they have in the past because of some of the things that they saw, especially in this series against Indiana. And I think that's going to make it really, really fascinating for this front office.
Yeah, I would just say that I don't think there is such thing as a long runway with the new CBA. As long as they're talking about, we're new to this world, right?
Right.
But we're already seeing the Denver Nuggets, who won a championship with 2 stars in their early primes, Jokic and Jamal Murray, struggling to get out of the second round. Since then, no champion has gotten out of the second round. No defending champions got out of the second round since 2019. Obviously, that predates the CBA, but I'm just saying, Boston Celtics have decisions to make already with their roster. The Cavs are already brushing up against the second apron, and they haven't made it out of the second round yet. The other thing I would say is that for me, until I see otherwise, the championship window is defined by Donovan Mitchell's presence on the team.
I agree.
And that is only guaranteed for 2 more years.
Yep.
So you got to get moving here. It's entirely possible that within the next 2 years, the Cavs can take those steps. But boy, if you don't, like, I feel like every time the Cavs take a step back like this, it gets harder to take a couple steps forward because it adds pressure. It adds all this, Donovan can encourage it all he wants. It adds a bunch of, frankly, hate on the internet and criticism that, if your reputation or what you're showing me is you're not mentally tough, that's not going to help you get tougher all the time. Okay. Sometimes you're going to read the comments and have a bad day. Evan Mobley's a great player. I think he has another leap in him, but the history, even if Donovan stays, I wrote this the other day, even if Donovan stays, and you sign him up, by the way, we can have another podcast at some point in the summer whether you do want to sign Donovan to a 4+ year supermax past age 30. You want to be paying that guy $70 million or thereabouts when he's 34. I'm not so sure. Guys his size or smaller past age 30, since 2000, 8 of them made all NBA teams. Okay, it's like these smaller, shorter guards. After 30, it's kind of a crapshoot. I'm a true blue Donovan Mitchell believer, but I don't know what this team looks like. It's not just when Evan Mobley is the best player on the team. Like, what happens? Okay, that happened. What we're thinking of it as what happens when that happens because Evan Mobley just ascends to a level that's undeniable. Well, what if it's because Donovan Mitchell takes a step back at some point during this journey? We are now zoomed way far out, but I'm just saying, like, this CBA makes you think bigger.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking big here.
I mean, I know what Kobe said the other day. Kobe Altman was talking about, we need Evan to be our best player. And look, people inside this organization have been saying that for 2 years now. That if they're going to hang another championship banner, it's not because of Darius Garland. It's not because of Donovan Mitchell. It's because Evan is the one that helps them do that. Evan becomes the guy. He becomes the man. He is the one. He is the best player. But I think there's a legitimate question about how far away are they from that happening? Like, how far away is Evan from being their best player? It's still Donovan. Whether it can be or not is a completely different question, but it still is, right? His usage rating spiked when they got into the playoffs. Like, it ascended to a level that it was when he was in Utah. It's not what it was supposed to be. That's not how this team was built. That's not how they won 64 games. But that's what happened, right? Because it's still Donovan's team. He's still the best player. He's still the face of the franchise. So yeah, I think I'm with Kobe. Like, it needs to be Evan, but I don't think Evan's ready for that. I don't think he's ready for that this year. How far away do you guys think that is?
How far do we think it is, or how far does it have to be?
No, how far away do you think it is?
I
think we know how far away it has to be. It has to be immediate.
It has to be immediate. You get into the business of trying to predict people. Yeah. Like this is not, it's not a basketball conversation as much anymore. Everyone develops at their own pace.
Right.
And that's, by the way, totally fine in life when you have a lifetime to figure this stuff out. When you have 2 years, I don't know, man. The question to me is, like, do you want to win a championship, or do you want to say you were good for a long time? At this point, that's kind of where I'm at. Because if you want to win a championship, go take a risk. Go get, like, I'm not saying trade him, but see what you can get for Evan Mobley. The answer's a lot, and that a lot might come back and get you a championship. And banners hang forever, no matter how much. It doesn't matter how if you shorten your contention window. Like, obviously, I'm thinking about the Giannis thing is top of mind right now. Like, the Twitter-brained GM would tell you, well, you're shortening your contention window by 6-7 years. Like, hey, if I win a banner, I don't care.
Right.
I don't care. winning a championship, Brian Windhorst likes to say, winning a championship means you never have to say you're sorry.
Right.
And I believe in that. I believe that whatever is out there for some of for either a combination of some of these guys or the crown jewel, Evan Mobley, might be a little bit, more ready to win a championship than what the core is right now.
I think the earliest it happens is when Evan turns 25 after next year. I think he turns 25, and that's the soonest we see the potential for him to make that jump. I just don't think he's ready emotionally, spiritually, physically for it to happen next year. If he surprises us again with a huge jump this summer, I would not count him out. But I personally think it's going to take him turning 25 and realizing not only how important he is, but like the straight up fact that he has to be the best player. Or as I wrote in an article, he doesn't necessarily have to be the best player because Donovan still has the torch burning in his hands. But like, you have to at least play or act like you think you're the best player on the team. Because if you are still timid, if you're still second guessing, if you're still asking questions, should I have taken over in this situation? Should I have done X and W, whatever? Like, no, you just do. That's what the best players do. They switch into a different mindset. Obviously, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the playoffs or whatever. A scenario presents itself. You feel like this is a time where you can make an impact. You do it. You ask questions. You ask for forgiveness later, as Jimmy was mentioning, right? And I think that's how you operate through life. If you are a dog, and this is what I've heard this so many times throughout my life, leaders are born that way. You are a born leader. You get nurtured into the system that you are leading, but to be a leader, it has to be in you. And this is, again, when we get to the mental toughness conversation and all these things. Is it in you? Is it on you? Is it something that you can learn through experience? All these things. The reality of Evan Mobley's situation is he is great. He just doesn't know it to the standard that everybody else around him does. And that's the problem.
I think there's another layer to this, too. Donovan himself has to be ready to not be the best player.
Do you not think he is?
No, so, like, here's the thing. I think Donovan sees the potential in Evan. I think he does. I think everybody sees the potential in Evan. I think Donovan wants it to come out more than what it has. And I think Donovan recognizes that there's still more developing that Evan has to do. And I think Donovan recognizes that Evan doesn't yet know how to be a star. Like, there are so many things that come with that. And, like, Donovan, again, I'm not going to try and put words in Donovan's mouth or whatever. He can speak for himself. But it feels like, to me, like he wants it to happen, but sees that it's not happening yet. And understands that as much as he wants it to happen, Evan's not ready yet. So that's where there's like a breakdown here. And that's why I think you have some of these other conversations, some of them pie in the sky, but, you know, agents around the NBA are talking about these things. Various members of other organizations are talking about these things. Like, just hypothetically throwing this out there, because this is the thing that Jimmy brought up a couple of podcasts ago and other people have brought it up too. Like, there's a clear difference when it comes to Giannis and Evan. And one of them is who Donovan is taking a step back for. Donovan would have no choice but to accept the fact that Giannis is better than him. He would have no choice, right? Giannis is a champion. Giannis is an MVP. Giannis has done things that Donovan just dreams of doing. There's still a level to this sort of thing. And I know that I reference this over and over and over again, but it feels like a little bit to me that what needs to happen for the Cavs, for Donovan to take that step back, is something similar to what happened in Miami when LeBron went to Miami. Like, Dwayne Wade megastar, Hall of Famer, like was willing to take a step back because of who it was that he was pushing forward. Like he had no choice. Like, yeah, Dwayne Wade was Mr. Miami. Yeah, Dwayne Wade was Mr. Heat, but it's LeBron. So like it's easier as a player to accept that and take a step back when it's that guy, right? Like you have a belief in that guy. You understand that guy's readiness for that particular thing. And I just don't know. I think it would be hard for Donovan to take the step back that he probably needs to take when the playoffs roll around. Regular season is very, very different. It becomes easy to do it in the regular season. But when like the pressure is there and like your legacy is on the line, right? Like it's harder for him, I think, to take a step back when the guy who has to step forward just like isn't ready. And that's like in most cases, that's okay. Like we're talking about a 23-year-old kid here who has accomplished so much already early on in his career. But I just don't think when the going gets tough and the pressure ramps up, I don't think Donovan yet is fully willing to take that step back.
One, to understate Chris's point about the difference between Donovan and Giannis. Donovan just cracked top 5 MVP voting for the first time in his career. That's incredible. He deserves it. Giannis just did it for the 6th straight time. Okay.
Right.
That's discussion over right there. The second thing is, it's so for Donovan to relinquish the label of best player on the Cavs. It's not just about who takes the last shot. It's like a dream dies. Like Chris did a big feature on Donovan before the playoffs. I believe it was last year, 2024, in which Donovan said, I want to be like one of the faces of the league.
Yeah.
If you're the second best player on a championship team, and there's a version of this where who the best player on the Cavs is a muddy conversation between Donovan and Evan if it all works out. And it can and Donovan would be the more famous one, and maybe it just works out in the end that way. But like you're asking this guy who has harbored this idea the way he sees himself for so long, been mostly validated. Like I think even today after this playoff run, I'm not writing Donovan Mitchell off as the best player on a championship team. I'm not doing that. I don't think anyone is. I think if anything, he's had some rough luck in the playoffs, be it injury. I mean, like Donovan's had trouble letting go. Okay, he's had 2 teammates ever who have averaged 20 points a game. Who's he letting go for?
Right.
That's a valid question.
Right.
That's a valid question. But that
there's
there's still
out of the second round this time is not a reflection on him.
No. There's just more tweaks that he needs to make as well.
Yeah.
And this one is a big ask. If we even get to a point where he needs to make it, if there's someone willing on the team that's worth making it for.
With all that being said, that'll wrap up today's episode of the Wine and Gold Talk podcast. But remember to become a Cavs insider and interact with Chris, me, and Jimmy by subscribing to Subtext. If you want these spicy hot takes directly to your phone on a daily basis, this is where you get them. And for tomorrow's Hey Chris episode, this is where you send in your questions if you want to hear us talk about a particular topic that you are passionate about. So the only place to do this, the only way to do this, is signing up for a 14-day free trial or visiting cleveland.com/Cavs and clicking on the blue bar at the top of the page. If you don't like it, that's fine. All you have to do is text the word STOP. It's easy, but we can tell you that the people who sign up stick around, because this is the best way to get insider coverage on the Cavs from me, Chris, and Jimmy. This isn't just our podcast, it's your podcast. And the only way to have your voice heard is through Subtext. Y'all be safe. We out.